So, I want you to picture this. It is a Tuesday afternoon, right? In Billings, Montana.
Okay, setting the scene.
Yeah. And there is this 13-year-old boy, and he has been watching the World Cup on his phone for, like, 2 weeks straight.
Oh, wow. Just entirely hooked.
Completely hooked. He absolutely loves the game and he wants to play. But here is the problem.
What's the problem?
The nearest youth soccer club is 47 miles away.
Oh, man. 47 miles.
Yeah, and his family doesn't have a car. So here is the brutal reality we are looking at today. Not one of the 5 major youth sports reforms currently rolling out across the United States can reach him.
Right.
Not one reform can reach him. Not one.
And that is just wild because if you look around right now, the United States is like entirely gripped by the fever of the 2026 World Cup.
It really is.
I mean, the stadiums are packed to capacity, the broadcasts are shattering viewership records, and everywhere you turn, the hype is just immense.
You know, the ultimate contradiction, honestly. On one hand, you have this massive global roar happening right here on American soil. I mean, just look at the Cape Verde goalkeeper.
Oh, yes.
His name is Vozinha.
Right, Vozinha.
Yeah, Vozinha. He is 40 years old. He had an absolutely heroic 7-save performance against Spain, and he gained, 15 million followers overnight.
Yeah, which is just fascinating when you consider that 15 million followers is, well, it's more than most top-tier NFL superstars have accumulated over their entire careers.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it's crazy.
That is insane. But American fans are just completely captivated by these global underdog stories.
They love it.
There's this quote from an American fan. His name is Ivan Hand.
Ivan Hand, right.
Right. And he was talking to Reuters about Vozinha going viral. And Ivan Hand said, if you were to look on a map, you could not tell me where Cape Verde is right now.
That is so true for so many people.
But here is the critical difference. And honestly, the entire reason we are doing this deep dive today.
This underlying issue.
Yeah. Cape Verde produced Vozinha without charging his family thousands of dollars a year just for the privilege of stepping onto a pitch.
Wow.
America watches him go viral while the American Vozinha sits on a bench.
And not because they lack the talent, right, or the instinct.
Exactly. It's because this system was designed to filter them out before anyone even noticed they were there.
Which brings us perfectly to the mission of this deep dive. Because, you know, if you've been following the tournament, you know the excitement.
Oh, totally.
But today, we are going beneath the surface. We are looking at a heavy stack of sources, including testimony from the Aspen Institute, demographic data from McKinsey, Rutgers research on Gen Z, and reports from the U.S. Soccer Foundation.
It's a lot of data.
It is, but we're going to map out exactly who is missing from the game and why. And what these sources reveal is this central analytical frame.
Right, the big takeaway.
Yeah. The United States is incredibly efficient at making millions of fans, but we are making fans who have no actual way to play the game.
We're making millions of fans who have no actual way to play the game. That hits hard.
It does, because when institutions announce massive reforms but consistently fail to specify exactly who those reforms are designed to reach, well, they cannot be held accountable when millions of kids are left behind.
So true. So let's start by looking at the financial barrier, because the numbers in these reports are, frankly, staggering.
Staggering is the right word.
If you're driving your kid to soccer practice right now, you probably already feel this in your wallet. Tom Ferry, the executive director of the Aspen Institute's Sports and Society program. He gave testimony to Congress recently.
Yeah, the FAIR testimony.
Right. And he pointed out that youth sports spending has jumped 46% since 2019.
46%? That is massive.
We have effectively created a ruthless 2-tiered system. The average annual cost for youth soccer is $1,188 per child.
Wait. We need to be very clear about that figure.
Yeah.
That is exactly $1,188 per year per child on average.
Exactly. $1,188. $11,188. It is the most expensive major youth sport in America.
By far.
I mean, I'm trying to wrap my head around what makes up that $1,188.
It adds up fast.
We're talking about like mandatory branded uniform kits, tournament entry fees, travel expenses, hotel stays for out-of-state games.
And elite coaching fees.
Right. It's like offering a free college scholarship to anyone who makes the team, but making the tryout application process cost $1,188.
That is a great analogy.
You haven't actually made the sport accessible. You've just created a wealth filter. The train is magnificent, but you can't get on it.
You really can't. And to understand why this is a structural issue, and not just a casual oversight, we need to look at the perspective of sociologist Majeed Akbar.
Right, Majeed Akbar.
Yeah, Majeed Akbar. He studies sport access, and he poses a scenario that perfectly illustrates this structural failure. He calls it the Chicago parent question.
Okay, lay it out for us.
Imagine a parent in a low-income community in Chicago. They have a highly talented, athletic child.
Okay.
They are looking at a basketball pathway that is largely integrated into public parks and schools for free on one side.
Free's good.
Exactly. And on the other side, they are looking at a soccer pathway that costs $1,188.
Right. I mean, I'm struggling to see why anyone in that position would choose the $1,188 option when basketball will develop your child's athletic potential for free.
And here's what makes this particularly difficult to solve. It's not irrational.
What do you mean?
A parent choosing basketball over soccer for a talented child in a low-income community is making a mathematically correct decision.
A mathematically correct decision. Wow.
Yeah, the return on investment is higher, the cost barrier is lower, the institutional support is stronger.
Right.
And none of the 5 reforms changes this calculation.
Not one.
Not one. None of them make soccer economically competitive with basketball for these families.
Which means
the reforms, even if fully successful, will continue to produce a youth soccer landscape that is disproportionately white and disproportionately affluent. Not by intention, but by the cold logic of the math.
By the math. But I have to push back a little here, though, because we are seeing a flood of private equity entering youth sports right now.
Oh, absolutely.
There are billions of dollars being poured into the sports ecosystem. We see mega facilities popping up in the suburbs, travel tournaments expanding into massive corporate operations. Doesn't that capital eventually trickle down?
You'd think so, right?
Right? Doesn't a rising tide lift all boats and create more opportunities at the grassroots level?
The data actually suggests the exact opposite.
Wait, really?
Yeah. Private equity doesn't operate on a trickle-down model. It operates on extraction.
Extraction. Okay, explain that.
What happens is these firms buy up local grassroots clubs, consolidate them, and suddenly the local recreational league is defunded. They pull revenue out of community recreation and push it into a model that depends entirely on extreme travel and early specialization.
So they aren't fixing the cost issue at all?
No. They don't lower the $1,188 barrier. They rely on it. They justify it by offering these quote-unquote elite experiences, which just prices out the community even faster.
So the math really is the math.
Yes.
And that math only works if you fit a very specific demographic profile.
Precisely. Most of these top-down reforms operate on 4 invisible assumptions.
4 of them. Let's hear them.
If you read the fine print of these major initiatives, they assume the target child is urban, male, cisgender, and reachable by car.
Reachable by car. Let's unpack that one because geography plays a massive, often ignored role in this deep dive.
It really does.
I mean, 97% of American land is rural. That space is home to 13 million children.
14 million.
And yet every major reform we see highlighted in the media seems entirely urban-focused. For example, the sources talk about station soccer.
Oh, right, station soccer.
Yeah, for those who haven't heard of it, station soccer is this brilliant initiative where they have literally built small-sided soccer pitches directly inside transit stations.
Like at the Miar Law stops in Atlanta.
Exactly, the Mardo stops. And it's an incredible way to use city infrastructure. But if you live in a town of 2,000 people, and you don't have a subway system, what then?
Well, you're left isolated. The physical infrastructure simply doesn't exist for you.
And the common counter-argument I hear is, well, kids today are online, they have digital access to the game.
Right, the digital argument.
But the Rutgers research points out what they call the Gen Z digital paradox.
Which is fascinating.
It is. The algorithm on TikTok can easily show a kid in rural Montana a feed full of Kylian Mbappe highlights. They can feel completely connected to the global culture of the sport.
Yeah.
But the algorithm cannot drive them 47 miles to the nearest practice facility. Digital access is not physical access.
It's a crucial distinction, and nobody has counted these rural kids.
Nobody has counted them.
Nobody? Because they live outside the major metropolitan zones, they are entirely absent from the data.
Wow.
And here's what that absence of data means. When the Soccer Foundation presents its 2030 goals to Congress, Royal America is not in the numbers.
Not in the numbers.
Right. When tournament operators decide which markets to expand into, Rural America is not in the spreadsheet.
Wow.
When MLS clubs scout for talent, the 47-mile radius around a city is not where they send scouts.
So they're literally invisible.
Exactly. Invisibility in data produces invisibility in policy. And invisibility in policy produces exactly the system we've been documenting for this entire deep dive.
That is heavy. So if you aren't urban, you're out.
Pretty much.
But here is where the logic of these reforms gets really frustrating. Even if you do live in a major city, even if you have access to public transit or a car, there's another massive gap, the gender gap.
Oh, absolutely.
Girls in urban and suburban areas alike are facing a widening chasm in youth soccer.
They are. And it stems from a profound lack of institutional support. Miriam Hickey, the former Girls Development Academy commissioner.
Wait, say her name one more time.
Miriam Hickey.
Right, Miriam Hickey.
Yeah, she asked a very pointed question in one of our sources. She said, if there's nobody holding you accountable, then why?
And for context, for you listening, the Girls Development Academy was the premier youth pipeline operated by U.S. Soccer. It was supposed to be the gold standard for developing female talent.
Exactly. But the Girls DA was dissolved in 2020.
And then what happened?
4 years of institutional inaction followed.
4 years?
4 years during which the girls who would have developed into the next generation of U.S. women's players had no pipeline at all.
Just nothing.
Nothing. And those aren't abstract years. Those are specific players.
Real kids.
Specific girls who quit, changed sports, or simply aged out while the institutions debated what to replace it with.
Aging out while the adults have a meeting. I mean, that is a brutal reality for a young athlete. They'll age out before reform reaches them.
It is brutal. And if we look across the Atlantic to compare, Spain won the Women's World Cup in 2023.
Right.
They didn't do it with one line in a corporate press release.
No.
They built a girls' development system with the exact same institutional weight and financial backing as the boys' system.
Which is how you win a World Cup.
Exactly. But that's not happening here, and the gap is not closing, it's widening.
It's widening. And, you do see these fragmented efforts here in the U.S., but they are just that fragmented. Like Angel City FC launched a $1.3 million fund to support 14,000 youth players in Los Angeles.
Which is a great initiative.
It is amazing,
Yeah.
but it is highly localized. It's one city meant to last 2 years.
Right.
Meanwhile, major new systemic academies like San Diego FC's new academy remain boys only.
Boys only, still.
Still. And when you look at massive corporate initiatives like Bank of America's She Invests program, it often amounts to just one line in a press release, rather than a systemic nationwide pipeline.
Because it relies on isolated philanthropy rather than structural equality. A localized grant doesn't change the national landscape.
Okay, so if the rural kids are physically blocked by geography, the lower income athletes are mathematically priced out by that $1,188 price tag,
Yeah.
and girls are being left behind by institutional neglect.
Yeah.
Who was actually participating? And more importantly, who is driving the economic engine of this sport in America right now?
Yeah.
Because the numbers from McKinsey are wild.
They are incredible.
They project the U.S. sports economy will hit $300 billion by 2035. And Latino fans are projected to drive 1/3 of that total growth.
They are an absolute economic powerhouse in this space. The data shows Latino fans already spend 15% more on sports than non-Latinos.
15% more.
And when you adjust that data by income, they're spending 50% more.
50% more. So this demographic is heavily responsible for bringing the global roar to the U.S. They're the ones throwing the massive watch parties, driving the deep cultural ties to Liga MX and the Premier League, and filling these World Cup stadiums. But there's a massive disconnect here between fandom and actual participation on the field.
And this is where it gets concerning.
Yeah. The McKinsey data points out that 25% of Latino parents cite scheduling conflicts as a major barrier to getting their kids on a team. When families are working multiple jobs, the demands of travel soccer are impossible.
Structurally impossible.
And again, the cost remains completely prohibitive.
This raises an important question, though.
What's that?
If Latino youth participation is actually growing faster than other demographics right now, why are we worried about this disconnect?
Right, because the data does say their participation grew at almost double the rate of non-Latino youth recently. So why is this considered a pipeline threat?
Because youth participation is the fundamental pipeline for adult fandom. You cannot disconnect the two over the long term. If these kids are eventually priced out as they get older and the sport gets more expensive, or if they feel unwelcome in the club environment, this massive economic engine will eventually stall.
Right, you lose the fans of tomorrow.
Exactly. And the feeling of being unwelcome is a real measurable metric. Data shows Latino and Black kids are 3 times more likely to quit soccer simply because they feel unwelcome in the predominantly white, affluent club structures.
3 times more likely.
You cannot expect a multi-billion-dollar fandom to sustain itself if the core demographic is structurally excluded from the actual pitch.
That makes total sense. You can't just harvest the fandom at the professional level without planting the seeds of participation at the youth level.
Well said.
And speaking of being unwelcome, geographic and economic barriers aren't the only ways kids are kept off the field. Our sources point to a glaring absence of LGBTQ inclusion.
This is a huge point.
Just think about this. There have been 0 out players in the 96-year history of the Men's World Cup under Ep.04.
Under 55, yeah. 0 in 96 years.
And beyond the players on the pitch, 27% of Americans feel sporting events in general are not safe spaces for LGBTQ individuals.
27%. That is more than a quarter of the country.
The Three Lions Pride boycott is a prime example of how this manifests.
Oh, yeah.
For those who don't know, Three Lions Pride is an LGBTQ fan group for the England national team. Many of their members actively boycotted attending the last World Cup because the mega event was held in a host nation where their very existence and identity are criminalized.
Right.
They didn't feel safe traveling to simply be fans. But even zooming back into the domestic youth landscape, when you look at these 5 major youth sports reforms we've been analyzing today, LGBTQ youth are completely invisible.
Completely.
Only one localized program out of the dozens we looked at even mentions the phrase gender-expansive youth.
Just one. Let's synthesize what is happening here, because if we step back, there is a very distinct pattern emerging from the sources.
What's the pattern?
The word belonging has appeared in 3 completely different contexts across our research today.
No, it has.
We saw it discussed regarding low-income kids who can't afford the fees. We saw it with rural kids who are geographically isolated. And now we see it with LGBTQ youth feeling unsafe.
It's all connected.
It is different demographics, different faces, different locations, but it is the exact same mechanism of exclusion.
Wow.
It is the same signal telling these kids, this space was not built for you.
So I have to ask the ultimate question here. When we look at these massive multi-million-dollar institutional reforms that consistently miss these same 4 groups, is this an oversight or is this a choice?
That is the big question. We can't definitively answer intent with the data we have today, but what we can analyze is the institutional response.
And what is the response?
The institutional response across the board has been almost identical. Silence.
It's just silence.
Silence. A reform that doesn't specifically name the vulnerable group it is designed to reach cannot be held accountable for whether it actually reaches them.
That is so true.
Accountability requires specificity, and specificity is exactly what is missing from almost every major announcement we've examined.
Okay, here's what we've established today. The World Cup is generating billions. 5 major youth reforms exist, all real, all well-funded.
Yep.
Yet 4 distinct groups, rural kids, lower-income athletes, girls, and LGBTQ youth, are still missing.
Is still missing.
And a reform that doesn't name who it's designed to reach cannot be held accountable for whether it reaches them.
Exactly. And if you are sitting there listening to this, wondering why this matters to you, especially if you don't have kids in sports or you don't even like soccer,
Right, why should they care?
it's because youth sports are a public good. Reaching the government target of 63% youth sports participation by 2030 would deliver $80 billion in societal benefits.
$80 billion.
$80 billion. We are talking about massive medical savings, reduced crime rates, and future worker productivity.
So it affects everyone.
Everyone. When kids are left on the bench, society is the one that foots the bill.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something that builds on everything we've unpacked today. We know that New York recently became the first state to legalize mobile sports betting, with a specific legislative cut earmarked directly for youth sports programming.
Right. The New York model.
Yeah. Now look at the 2026 World Cup. It is projected to generate over $11.1 billion in economic activity here in the U.S.
That's billion with a B.
Billion with a B. What would happen if a mandatory fraction of those mega event revenues was legally required to go straight into building free local youth play spaces?
Imagine that.
What if we funded the grassroots before we funded the stadiums? Would we finally see the American Vozinha get off the bench?
It is a question worth asking the people in charge. 2 things before we go. First, subscribe to the feed so you never miss what comes next as we continue to track this issue.
Definitely subscribe.
And second, share this deep dive with just one person. Send it to a parent, a youth coach, a teacher, a school board member, or someone with the power to ask these exact questions in a room where decisions are actually made. One person. That's the ask.
Thank you for listening. This is The Duck Dive. The kids America left out of the game.